Hi, Mindy here. I today am going to show you about sourdough starter, or the mother they call it. I've been fortunate to have been gifted some mother that originated 100 years ago from Italy, so I'm pretty excited to be cooking with it. And I thought today I would just start with the basics of the sourdough mother. So the point of the mother is that we feed it. I feed mine every day. So I'm based in Brisbane, just north of Brisbane in Queensland. Like today, for example, the weather is going to get to 25 degrees, minimum 17. My starter just grows constantly and I think quite rapidly. So what the idea of the starter is that you bake with majority of the starter. So I bake with 150 grams of starter, but we also need to leave a little bit in there to keep the next starters going. So if I'm baking with 150 grams, I always try to leave about 20 to 30 grams in here to keep my starter alive. I hope that makes sense. Message me if you've got any questions about starter. Today my jar's looking a little bit worse for wear. We had a bit of an explosion over the weekend. So we're going to pop it into a new jar, and I thought I'd run you through just the basics of how to feed your starter to begin with. I was going to say to start with, but that's too many starts. All right, so on our scales, we're going to set it to 0 with the weight of our container on it. I find that glass does work best. And I just get these from Kmart, and I get 2 because I have them on rotation as well when one needs a bit of a clean out. So with our starter, we're going to have 20 grams. So we're going to keep 20 grams, and then the rest of this is called discard. So you can make discard biscuits, you can use it in any other recipes. I made a loaf of bread yesterday with this, so this is actually my discard, but it's still quite bubbly. So we're going to put 20 grams into our new container, a nice new container. It does, 20 grams isn't actually enough, a lot, I mean, so that's 21 grams, near enough is close enough. I figure 100 years ago, they didn't necessarily have these digital technologies that we have today. So for me, near enough is definitely good enough when we're cooking with sourdough starter. You can, I'm just going to throw that away, that discard. As I say, you can keep it in the fridge, you can use it for other recipes, you can do whatever, but I have no use for it today, so I'm just going to literally discard my discard. Into our container, we're going to pour 75 grams of flour, just plain flour. I just use the Coles brand, and it does fine for me. I don't have a problem with it. It makes really nice bread. Some people look at the protein content as well as they're making sourdough, looking for a higher protein flour, but honestly there's not a lot in the proteins throughout the different flours that I have found through the supermarkets. The IGA one does also have a good protein content as well. All right, so then we're going to add 75 grams of water. I don't usually measure, as long as in this jar I have over 150 grams of starter, then I know that it's going to be enough to make my next loaf of bread. 150 grams just makes me one solid sourdough loaf. Okay, so give it a good mix. You don't want any flour clumps left. I'll show you the consistency. I just use the spatula for mine so that I'm getting the edges at the same time. But let me see. with the sourdough too, if you want a faster turnover, you just put, it's like a bit of science, you just put more starter in of the mother, you put more of that in because it's going to eat the new flour faster. So it's just a bit of a science. If you want it to go slower, then you're just going to put less starter in and also make the environment cold. Some people keep their starter in their fridge when they're not using it. I just feed mine every day. I find it quite therapeutic. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. I'll show you my consistency and it works for me. That's gross. Hold on, let me put that in the sink. So that's the consistency of mine. It does a good job. And then by this afternoon, that will be like double. Once it's doubled, then you are ready to cook with it. Some people use a rubber band. I don't think I've got one here. Some people use a rubber band and they'll put the rubber band around the bottom of their jar, and then that just gives them a starting point for where their starter has started. When it doubles, then they can use it. You can use like mark it on there with the whiteboard marker or whatever. It's up to you. But that's our sourdough starter, and you should be in Southeast Queensland right to use that this afternoon.